Aaron, and thank you everybody for coming out to our record-breaking session on Collaborate. We have had a lot of requests for doing this. We've all experienced Collaborate, or at least most of us have, I guess, last semester. And like any technology, we're always looking for some new ways to use it or some new approaches. Seeing the comments already in the chat, there are some of the things that you're asking for that we probably won't address today too much, but I would certainly encourage you to reach out to anybody in our brought to you by list if you are looking for a specific idea. What our plan is today is we're going to hear from some of our faculty experts. When I asked for who are the rock stars on Collaborate, these are the names that came to the list. And so you will hear from each of them briefly about an idea or two they're using in their class with Collaborate, the technique they've been playing with. After that, we will go to breakout rooms briefly, just so that you all can share with each other. Maybe you have a question or a topic that you would like someone to address. Maybe you have a great idea you would like to share. After that, we'll come back together in the big room, and Amanda will update you on some of the latest features of Collaborate. If you've not seen those, she will overview those for you, and then we'll wrap up. So we welcome you again today. We have a variety of presenters, and when each of them comes on, I'll ask them just to introduce themselves in case you don't know who they are and what they teach, and then they will share their idea, and we will go on through that list, and then we'll go to our breakout rooms. So again, thank you all for being here, and I'm going to turn things over to Charity.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
One interesting thing I found is it seems like every single time I log into a new platform, I have to reset my mic. So I'm glad it worked out this time. So I'm going to talk to you about attendance and participation in Collaborate. I saw that came up a couple times in the chat, so it sounds like I'm on point. One issue that I've had is with how to determine attendance and how to get my students to engage me a little bit. So part of the issue is with time. I found this semester that it's been a lot easier to manage my time if I separate the published content from the recitation aspect of my classes. That is, I have all this lecture stuff that I normally do in class. That's the sort of thing that I publish to Blackboard in advance, and I ask the students to prepare by watching that lecture video or attempting an assignment or a tutorial before we get together. And then I can really focus on engaging with my students when we're in class together. So that's the time that we use to work on things like group work or their questions about their homework, that sort of thing. Another issue I've had is with how to actually monitor who's in class. Attendance was always difficult for me to track before, but in the Collaborate setting, it's even harder because once they're gone, you're either stuck watching the video or just trying to recall who contributed what to class discussion. So I've decided to use the chat to help me monitor attendance. There is a recorded log of all chat messages when you record your Collaborate session. So it's easier for me to search that list for a student's name than it is to try and recall exactly when they were there or what they contributed. So in all of my classes, I require that students type hello in the chat when they first join the session and goodbye before they leave as a measure of when they were in attendance. But that doesn't really help me with the participation aspect. So in addition to this hello, goodbye, I was here sort of thing, I also like to administer these survey questions that kind of require or prompt them at least to give me some sort of feedback about how it's going. At the start of a session, that survey question tends to be about the material that I asked them to read so that I can gauge what landed, what they're understanding, what they're not getting. And I also use the survey question to get to know them a little bit better, like as people, to learn their preferences, their styles, to create groups and teams. Another thing I saw come up in the chat at the front. So I'm going to share with you a couple of survey questions to the latter point that I would use to get to know my students better and to create groups or teams. I'm not going to quiz you on calculus, I promise. So if you can, in the chat, please tell me, what TV show did you last marathon? Ooh, look at these. Oh, I found some new best friends in the chat. Oh, The Boys was good too. There's so many good shows in here. I should be making a list of my own. You don't run with shows. Got it, Robert. That's pretty funny. If you don't already know Dr. Hammond, he's our resident dad joke expert. I don't know if you caught it, but he doesn't run with shows. That's a marathon joke. Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. And so this sort of exercise kind of tells us kind of what we're doing in our free time, what kind of shows we're into. It also can help students connect with other people that they may or may not know in the room by identifying with whatever show they last marathoned. So you can actually use this list now to design your groups for that group activity. Another technique that's been pretty effective. Oh, did I just hear a hand? Nope, that was something else. Another type of show or another type of survey question that I like to offer, will split them specifically into groups of 2 for a group work activity where I want them to compete or where I want them to present kind of 2 different sides of a subject matter. I might ask them a sort of yes or no, black or white, A or B category question like this. Was that a no? That's funny. I'm going to put tiger in the cat category. And for those of us that are just not great fans of pets, it sounds like we have a few. Would you rather? Play the would you rather game. If you really, really, really had to pick one, would it be a dog or a cat? That's interesting. So at least in this group, we're getting a pretty good 50-50 split. These survey questions I just designed in my regular slideshow. I find that that's the easiest way to prep material type questions because math is tricky to type, right? But you can also use the survey feature and collaborate. That's not something that you can necessarily prepare ahead of time, but it does give you some data, some feedback. It will tell you the number of students and even the type that answered in a particular way, so you can use them to design your groups. I hope that was helpful. I tried to keep it under 2 minutes. Did I win? Do I win, Scott? That's all I've got for you. Thanks, guys.
Okay, Consuela.
My favorite, unmute the microphone. That's where I always struggle. So one of the things that I have found with nursing is, as we already know, nursing is very difficult to do in a seated environment, much less online. So keeping the students engaged has been a little bit more difficult, as well as kind of touching their touchy-feely side. Because as you all know, if you can't reach them about how they're feeling that day, because a lot of them have their kids at home or whatever, then they're obviously not listening to you. So I am sure, I'm going to share my screen. I'm sure that many of you have already heard of Poll Everywhere. So one of the things I use, and it looks like it's not sharing. Okay, there it goes. It was a delay here. I'm in my office, and so at home I don't have this delay. But anyway, one of the things I like to use, there is a poll feature in Blackboard, but it allows you to poll in multiple choice version or yes or no. You can also use the whiteboard for this. I've done it both ways. And the reason I do this over the chat is because I sometimes have students that, just like in the classroom, won't speak up otherwise because they don't want to be singled out. And so using a feature like the Poll Everywhere or even the whiteboard allows them to be able to put their feelings out at the beginning. I do this at the beginning of the class to find out what their feelings or concerns are, almost like a table talk. And so I like to do that at the beginning of my lecture so I can find out what's going on with the group as a whole if they're willing to share. And we spend probably 10 minutes or so talking about feelings. We get them all out on the table, and then we're done with them, and then we go on with lecture. And so what I find is that connection with the students, they feel like, and I really do care about them, but then they feel even more connected with us because I'm actually asking them about how they feel that day versus jumping right in with the lecture. And so I have several different polls that I have built in with Poll Everywhere. And as you see, you can do it in bubble form or cloud form. I like this format because it comes through as colors. Right now, the words look a little bit broken and like they don't go together, but as they come in, you can read a little bit better as to what their feelings are. And so on this one, basically, we were doing online virtual clinical. And so they were talking about they were ready to get to the next semester. They needed coffee. Yes, coffee is always a good response. They needed coffee, and they were feeling better prepared. Ironically, you would not think that a nursing student can do clinical online. But what I have seen is you can teach a monkey skills, but until they understand the concepts behind it and the reason why they're doing something, it doesn't make sense. So doing the online clinical, the students are actually getting the why and the clinical judgment behind the skill. This semester they will go to clinical, so they will be able to use that clinical judgment and skills with it. Can you embed it into Collaborate? That would be an Amanda question. I have not figured out how to do that yet, so I usually just open up my second screen and share it, but I'm sure you can. I heard someone else mention, or I saw in the chat, about breakout groups, and I'm going to stop sharing this page so you guys can see me. So with breakout groups, we do use breakout groups a lot in nursing. Well, I use them when I'm teaching. And I did not introduce myself. I'm the Practical Nursing Program Director. It is free charity. And so in the breakout groups, you can go in there. There's a preset number. I think it defaults to like 2 groups, but you can change it to the number of groups that you want. So if I have 40 students and I only want 5 students, then obviously I'm going to divide that 40 by 5, and that's the number of groups that I want. And what I like about it is as the instructor or moderator, you can pop in and out each group. Now the caveat is you have to give your instructions if the instructions are the same. You have to give your instructions before you divide them out, because then they go to their breakout groups once you hit submit. And so they go into their breakout groups. If you want them to have different instructions when you pop in and out to each group, then you can tell them in the instructions as you're in there. Also with the breakout groups, you can randomly assign who's going to be in it, or you can do like you would do if you were in class. You know, I know you all have these students that just always get together in a group. And so if you want to separate them, then you can intentionally do the names. It takes a little bit longer to do it that way. Is that platform Collaborate? It is in Collaborate, and let me go to, I'm not sure how it's gonna do with me sharing my screen here, but okay, can you guys see that? Oh no, that doesn't work. Okay. Let me stop it. Okay, so I see more than one page, but if it doesn't show that way to you guys, that's great. And I won't do it because I don't want to shuffle us up. But here on the right hand side, you will see, okay. You will see, yeah, I see 1,000,000 pages too. Here on the right hand side, you will see the number of groups that you can divide it up in. I'm not going to do that because, like I said, I don't want to divide them up. I don't want to divide us up. And then here, up in the randomly assign, you can randomly assign or you can custom assign, as I was telling you. If you hit custom assign, then you have to actually put each person into the group. Here we have the 2 groups, and these are the names under each group. But if we wanted more than 2 groups, because 37 members in one group, of course, would be overwhelming unless you're going to do a big skill or something. I usually don't like to put that many people in a group. I typically try to keep my groups at 5 or below. I really like 4 because having an odd number is always an odd man out. But that's how you would do that. We will be in Breakout. Yes. So I am not sure if I used my time. I hope I shared something with you. When Dean Byington reached out to me, I'm like, I don't know if I have any great tips. I just know things that I do that work. So feel free, if anybody wants to know anything extra or how something works, always feel free to email me. I am very, very responsive in my emails, and hopefully I can help you any way that I can. Any questions for me? I'm going to pop out shortly because I have another meeting to go to, but if anyone has any questions, like I said, shoot me an email. Otherwise, I hope you've learned something from me today. You're welcome, Alex. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Consuela. Danielle.
Yeah.
Alrighty, can everyone see me and hear me okay? Taking off the unmute. We're good? All right, well, my name is Danielle Bruner, and I'm the second-year dental hygiene instructor, the Keller Health Science Campus, and it's so nice to engage with everyone today through all our courses. But this is a quick 2 to 3 minutes from the heart share. So a couple things when I'm teaching, especially synchronously, dental hygiene students or really any health science students in general, I make sure to listen to what the students are asking us for. So there's several meanings to that. So what are they asking me for, or what are they not asking me for? So after lecture, I try to reflect. What are they not asking me? So what can I provide for them? And then what are they asking me for? And that could be, maybe they didn't ask me directly, but maybe they started doodling on the slide and they're drawing, and that generates creativity and what I can provide for them. So when they were doodling on the slide, it generated a creative idea. Okay, well, you know what? They like the drawing feature. Even though, let's say, okay, they're drawing during lecture. Okay, Danielle. However, that generated, okay, they like to use that tool. How can I use that productively with the material? So really reflecting back on what are they asking me for, and what are some of their different behaviors, and I can assess that through a really good close rapport with the students. Like Consuela said, and others, developing like, okay, here's our to-do list. This is what we got on tap today. This is what we're going to cover. How are we feeling? Let's talk it out. Kind of our laundry list. That helps them feel connected and me feel connected with them, especially when half of our time is split up with clinical rotations. They're not with us in the classroom anymore. We don't see them in the hallway. So reflecting and identifying what are they asking us for, or what are they not, and then from there, as educators, we can just create. The other thing is gain a new lens. So I have this dental lens, this type A dental lens. That's good and bad. However, I find it beneficial to get a totally different lens, someone from across campus. So at Central Carolina, we're a great family, and everyone has been amazing since I've started here, willing to help. But get a lens. So I teach dental, maybe we go to English, or maybe I go to IT, or maybe any other instructor. They teach things differently, and great teachers steal and make it your own. You can learn what not to do from veteran faculty, or maybe take an idea like Consuelo with the breakout rooms, but getting a different lens, because this is an art. So maybe I'm a Picasso fan, but then I find another artist and a different technique, that really helps bring creativity in the classroom. And then from there, your students see that if you try something new, that you care about them, that you want to bring something new to the table. And it's okay. I even tell them, hey, I'm going to try something new today. I thought you girls would like this. They feel cared for. And that's really important. They're missing a few pillars, especially as a college student. They're missing support, a purpose. That's why they're going to school, usually to become a healthcare professional to provide. So they're missing some pillars that we can provide for them in the classroom. So I try to do that in helping them feel cared for, feel safe, things we learned about today. That's really important. And then never be afraid to try new things. If you can ask my team, my department, or I try new things and sometimes I fail. And it is awful. And it's, but it's okay because I tried, and then they do feel that I'm trying. So trying new ideas. So maybe yoga in the classroom isn't great virtually. Well, 2 years ago, it was amazing. But trying something new, especially in the virtual platform, is really important for them to see that you're trying and you're giving everything, just as we are asking them to give everything they've got to their studies. I think it's a two-way street there. They want to see their instructors are going the extra mile, and it's a constant reminder that we're in front of a computer, that things aren't the way they were brought up in the classroom, especially with this generation. So they want to see that we're trying, and we're their teachers, and I feel like that's our responsibility. So don't be afraid to fail, because I've done it, and I could tell you some stories, especially online. I try new things. It's okay. And then take time for yourself. So going on a walk, listening to the radio. A healthy you is a healthy student. So I like to listen to Bobby Bones. That's what generated an idea. I think it was like Hangman that came up with, and there was another game, but it was generated from a radio talk show host. So exposing yourself to healthy things and hobbies, creativity will help generate and make a more well-rounded teacher. So those are what I have for you all today. And thank you, everyone. And I'm Danielle, and reach out anytime, email, chat. You guys are a great inspiration, and you're welcome to join any class I teach. I think that was something that was gifted to me, and I give you that gift. You're all welcome anytime. Have a great day.
Thanks, Danielle. Martin, take over, please.
Thank you, Scott. I'm going to go ahead and try to share my PowerPoint slides. And so once again, my name is Martin Haley, and I teach accounting. So obviously I did bullet points because that's what accountants do. We like to make lists. So obviously some of the items on my list may not pertain to your style of teaching, depending on the concept. But for me, first and foremost, Amanda Carter and my department chair, Marianne, mentioned using a cell phone for audio, which I'm doing today. Normally, when I'm teaching Blackboard, I call in to my class so they can hear everything that I'm saying. Also, if for some reason it happened to me on a night class, and I teach from 6 till 8:40 at night, my work computer wanted to restart. So thankfully, I had my cell phone, and I was able to say, okay, sorry, students, my computer shut down. It'll be restarting here in a few minutes, and thankfully it was on break. But either way, I was like, hey, all the students that email me and say, hey, I messed up on the test because my computer restarted, well, now I understood exactly what they were saying. So for me, using my cell phone, and I have it, right here underneath me while I'm teaching, that is vital for me, making sure the students can always hear me loud and clear. But also, if something were to happen to my computer, I can say, give me a few minutes until I get back online. Next thing I try to do is I always try to teach the class like I'm in the classroom. So when we started Blackboard Collaborate last March, I said, okay, how can I do the things that I did in the classroom that students really enjoyed that I can do in Blackboard Collaborate? So I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how I can make the Blackboard Collaborate class as similar as possible. Now, granted, it is accounting, so there are things that I can do with software to make it just like in the classroom. But with that being said, teaching it like a classroom, every time a student logged in, I would say, hey, good morning, Sarah, good morning, Charity, whatever my students are, to say hello to them. So they would acknowledge the fact that I see that they are coming into my classroom. And also, if they came in late, I would say, hey, thanks for showing up, Jose. I appreciate it. A few minutes late, no big deal. So I almost, once again, pictured like I was in the classroom up front and seeing the students come in and say, yeah, come on into class, perfect timing. So I really try to say hello to each student every time they sign in the morning, and then, of course, say goodbye. But once again, trying to get that as if we were still in the classroom, having that one-on-one discussion. So another item that I like to do is record sessions. And once again, this is because of accounting. I'm able to, as mentioned before, share a screen. And so my students in accounting have actually done better than in the past because they're able to watch me on the software work on accounting problems. So, with COVID and everything else going on, they were still able to do that. And recording it, I would have students tell me, Mr. Haley, thank you for recording the session. I went back and tried that problem again after listening to your video and watching you work in the software, whether it was the tax software or Cengage, and now I understand it better. So I always posted the link after class and said, hey, today's class where we talked about individual tax return, this business income, it's now posted, and they will go back and watch that. And so I think this past semester with Collaborate, my students have actually done better in the software than they have in the past, where they're sitting in the classroom just looking at me on the whiteboard and looking in their books. Also, once again, to try to keep those students engaged, I try to do two different things. First, I like to start out after I've said hello to everyone is to talk about a recent topic, whether it's in the news that morning or the day before, and say, okay, here's what happened in the news, and this relates to our current class topic. So I had students say, oh, Mr. Haley, thanks for bringing that up. That was really cool how you tied in the stock price, or maybe the easier one was about the airlines showing losses. I would talk about that first and say, okay, that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. So I always tried to keep it relevant with a current topic because, of course, they're going to go out and do their accounting career. You should be wanted them to know what was going on in the world outside, so when they were to go get a job, they would be current with their events. The last thing I do, and this is something that I just randomly thought about, is that I'm going to make a mistake on purpose during class time because I want to keep them engaged, and then I would give them extra credit. So I would make a mistake, usually on purpose. Sometimes I'd make it by accident, and I would give them extra credit. They say, no, Mr. Haley, you should have debited cash, not credit cash. And I would say, oh, thank you for pointing that out. And then later on, I would email them and say, you got extra credit, I'll apply it on your next test. So I always spent, at least once, maybe twice in a class, going over PowerPoint slides or when I was going over the software to purposely make a mistake and watch the chat boxes to see who caught it. If no one caught it, a few minutes later, I would say, you know what, no one caught that mistake. Here's what it was, and I guess no one gets extra credit. So as soon as the whole class knew that I would give extra credit for the next test if they found my mistake, that made me think that they were staring at their computer, like, okay, when's he going to make his mistake? And if I made a mistake and I didn't mean to, then I had to give extra credit to my wife and, buy her a gift, which thankfully hasn't happened too often. But that's my way of trying to keep them engaged with current topics, but then also making mistakes, because I don't put them in the chat rooms. I try to keep everyone in the same room so they can always, so I'm front and center. So those are my suggestions. So if you need anything, of course, as with everyone else, please send me an email. And thank you, Scott.
Great, thank you, Martin. Mary Ann.
So, hey everybody, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen while we're talking, but a lot of same things that Martin said. I just have a couple extra interactive things I'm going to talk to you guys about. So as a department, we kind of got together and tried to figure out what are those best practices for Collaborate. What can we do to make sure students are still getting what they need, just because situations have changed so much. So we agreed that flexibility, communication, student learning, and being interactive in the classroom was really important. So those are really the things that we've been trying to work on as a department and as instructors. So hopefully you'll get some background from this. Please let me know when you guys can see it. Okay, it finally popped up. We know how technology works. So a couple things that I use, and some of my colleagues have already talked about, but I like to use polls. I really do use these later in class just to make sure students are still there. Make sure nobody's fallen asleep on me. They haven't turned on their lecture and walked away. It's also just a way to kind of break up what's going on. The only downfall I found is that this really happens in real time with polls. So what I like to do is I actually keep a Word document that already has pre-selected poll statements, so I can copy and paste pretty quick through the class. So that way I don't have to worry about the fact that I can't stack polls on top of themselves. I like to use quite a few different interactive activities like Kahoot and Jeopardy. Kahoot, hope you guys are familiar with. It's used a lot in K through 12, but I found that my adult students really enjoy it. What it is it's a quiz game, so it allows them to have that little bit of competitive nature while we're reviewing on things. But it really does add that interactive component. The only issue with Kahoot is usually the student does have to have two devices to be able to play. I love playing Jeopardy, and I'm going to share that with you guys here in a minute. I actually made a template for Jeopardy so that I can use in my classes, and it's pretty easy and works really well. And then the other thing that I like to use to be interactive is our breakout sessions. So we heard a little bit about breakout sessions a few minutes ago, but the suggestion that I would make is I would recommend that you put yourself in as a student also. So not only be logged in as the instructor, if you log in as a student, you can actually juggle yourself in and out of different breakout sessions so that you can join in with the students and what their discussions are as you go through that prompt. So it does tend to be a lot easier because once you put yourself in a breakout session, you can't get yourself back out as a moderator. So if you log in also as a guest, you can keep jumping between rooms and make sure those conversations are moving in the direction they need to move. So just real fast, like I said, I wanted to kind of show you guys just one of the activities that I use. So I use Jeopardy. And really what I did was I just went in and made a Jeopardy board. And I let the students play. They can either use their mics or the chat box. So it's not something that excludes anybody. And they pick their question, and it comes up with the question. And then you move to the next slide, gives them their answer just like you would if you were watching it on TV. And then you can link it back to the main screen so it starts all over again. So you don't have to jump around. The only issue with this template is the fact that you have to use it as a screen share. You can't upload it into Collaborate and then play from there. So if anybody's interested in the template, please email me. I'd be glad to send it to you. You're more than welcome to use it in any way you can. I've just realized that through Collaborate, like Martin had said, I like to try to do things as close to the classroom as possible. It tends to keep students moving along through the material and not getting lost with all the distractions that we find from working from home. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Marianne. And Robert.
All right, thanks everyone. This has been great. You guys have had some great tips and tricks already so far. Mine's kind of basic by comparison. I'm Robert Barnes. I'm a history instructor here. And when I was thinking about the switch over to Collaborate, like many of you, I was thinking, how do we recreate that magic, right? That hard to describe magic that happens in the classroom. And for me, that is just that engagement and that sort of quick interaction. I say a lot of times, how many of you, by a quick show of hands, how many of you ever or use these sorts of quick back and forth with the students? So I'm going to draw your attention right now to these sort of Collaborate course room controls. If you would, just follow this arrow. You can see down at the bottom of your screen, if you click that icon with the green check mark, it's going to open up some Collaborate controls for you. And when you've had the ability to find this, go ahead and click that agree button for me. All right, so what we can see is that gives us sort of that sort of quick engagement, quick interaction. We've got the happy, sad, surprised, confused features. Pay attention to those. Remember how to get to this because I think that probably a lot of us have a tendency when we're going through these Collaborate sessions to have that chat screen pulled up so we can see the questions. But if you can look at this over on the right-hand side of the screen, you have these other sort of secondary controls. If you will now just click over to the section that is the attendees, it's got the number right now at 77. Click on that. And you'll see the full list. And when you see that, you'll notice that those check marks, those happy faces, they stay. So if you'll go back to your original controls, how many of you, just give me some sort of quick indication here, how are you feeling about the upcoming 2021 spring semester? The happy, sad, surprised, confused? Go ahead and give me a click on that. What are your feelings coming up? And if you're seeing that participant screen, you'll get an instant feedback of who's actually engaging, who's paying attention. You'll get sort of that barometer of the classroom. But this is the closest thing I've found to that sort of, hey, class, raise your hands if you understand this, or hey, class, raise your hands if you know this example. I was trying to use the movie The Matrix in a class one time, and they looked at me and said, Mr. B, you mean that old movie from the 90s? And it hurt a little bit, but it made me realize that they're not going to understand that example. They don't have that context. So these sort of Collaborate course room controls is silly. It's a really basic feature, but it does kind of give that quick feedback. Hey, do you guys understand? You've got a faster or slower? Do I need to go through this in any greater detail? And it just sort of gives me that fast connection and fast exchanges with the students. I try to do this a lot with every content as I'm going through a Collaborate session. Before I move on to a next subject, I'll put a question in there and make sure you vary it up so it's not always just agree or disagree. And you'll get that sort of quick indication of who's actively paying attention, engaged, who's got a question, who needs that slower feature to go over in more detail. It'll also give you kind of a quick indicator of who may be checked out and not actually fully engaged at the time. So like I said, compared to some of the other tricks that you guys have shared today, this one's really kind of basic, really simplistic. But this will give you that sort of real-time, fast interaction to kind of replicate some of that magic engagement in the classroom. And that's what I got. I was trying to keep it under my 3-minute quota. So thank you, guys.
Excellent. Thank you, Robert. What we'd like to do now, well, first off, I hope that you found hearing from your peers and hearing some other ideas was really good. Actually, I did not know the ideas they were going to share. I just said, share something that you think is something that everybody else would need to hear. What we're going to do now, just maybe for about 5 or 6 minutes, is we're going to throw you into breakout rooms. If you've never been to a breakout room, now's your chance. We're going to throw you in there, and I'll ask our moderators to jump into a room with you. But just give you a chance, if you have any questions, like if you had a challenge that you've not been able to accomplish and Collaborate, or you have a good idea you want to share, this is your chance. We'll do this for a few minutes, then we'll come back with Amanda to wrap up, and then we'll talk about the prize you're going to get for being here today. So hang on 1 second. Let me throw you into some rooms.
And I'll stay in here so that the recording keeps going.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey guys, sorry, I'm gonna jump off. I have a student who's in panic mode. So Thank you, guys. I'll talk to you later.
All right, I got you covered. Thank you.
Thank you.
What, like 30 minutes?
Well, we can wake them up or commiserate that I'm not awake either.
Everybody. Welcome back.
Return back sooner not thought.
Yep. It happens.
Yep.
Well, we will go ahead and proceed with our final things there. I'm not sure why we got clicked back into the main room, but a couple of things before we have Amanda close us out here. One, I would encourage you, if there's something that you do particularly well in Collaborate, if you have your own tip or trick or something that you think, I don't mind sharing this with the group, feel free to throw that into the chat. And if somebody sees an area like, oh, I need to have more help with this particular topic, they can then call on you if you're okay with that. And I'll go ahead and turn things over to Amanda to give us some updates, and then we'll talk about how we will close things out and the prize we will send you for being here today.
Of course, my technology decides to do the dramatic pause. So thank you all for coming. This is a great group, and you all have done amazing work since March, even before that. But this was a lift, a pivot, all the terms that we don't like to talk about anymore, more than what we could have expected. And with that, you all have become kind of mini Collaborate experts in your own respect. So I wanted to kind of tell you about a couple of things that are coming up, things to kind of look out for, to prepare for. One of them is something called Chatbot that is coming soon. It'll be in the under the gear for students or users to be able to get support. When they click on it, it will have sort of like a chatbot where it can help answer some of the basic issues for troubleshooting while they're in a session. So hopefully for a lot of the common issues, Blackboard has built that in to hopefully help make the experience better for some of the students. I have not seen it in action. And the approximate release date is January 14th. I will share more information once I've had more of a chance to see it and kind of give you the steps and everything on how to find it. Also, when you go to your recordings screen, you will soon, I think effective on the 14th, be able to see whether you've set it to be visible to the public or whether you've kept it locked to just your course for the parts that are in Blackboard and elsewhere. I know that one of the big changes you all had was originally anybody could see the link, you could just share it wherever, and then you had to learn to make the recording public if you wanted it viewed outside of that recordings base screen. So that is one of the things they're trying to improve. That they've been listening and hearing that has been a challenge. One of the newer features that I haven't seen a lot of use yet in the chat is you can now do chat mentions. So if you've been on Twitter before or in Facebook and you @ somebody with their name, it will give you prompts and you can actually chat at someone in the chat, and it gives us a little noise for that person, as well as some formatting. So you can now bold, italic, and underline in your chat messages. So that is a brand new feature to be able to play with and enjoy with your students. A few other little reminders. The recording reminder, perfect. That's exactly how that works. Whenever you have moderator access in a room, it will give you the pop-up for the recording reminder. I've heard that that's a popular feature. I love it. I don't let myself close it until I start recording, even if I'm 20 minutes early, just because I love that little pop-up. A couple of other things I wanted to mention is the recording processing. Generally at this time of the year, it takes a little bit longer for them to finish before you'll be able to share the link. Don't panic. We have literally to date not lost a single recording. One of them got stuck overnight because there was a weird server thing, but by the next day we found it. So Blackboard has done a really good job of maintaining those. So if something's missing or stuck, give me a yell and we can put in a ticket for it. There is a new chat profanity filter. It's in Google Meet, it's in some of the other products, but you do have to turn it on. So when you go under the gear in your courses, there'll be a little check box when you're setting up your session, and you can turn that on. So if you're ever concerned about potentially what people are saying, it will asterisk them out. The share camera was something I had put in a previous email. You can have a secondary camera set up with the USB connection. A lot of times you'll have either one built into your Surface or your laptop, but you can do a secondary camera and make that your document camera if you want to work out problems on paper or something on your desk, or you can point it to the wall and students can watch you working out problems or teaching almost like in one of those classrooms. The cool part, the one thing I wanted to make a minute for is to make a plug for a session coming up called Play Pause It. It is a product that's brand new that we're launching this week, and it will allow you where you can have poll results and download them, just like I believe Charity and some others mentioned. There's going to be some live crowdsourcing of questions and things that you can do within Play Pause It. There'll be a webinar in about a week and a half demoing how that will work. It will work. It should be able to work with Collaborate. We're pretty sure we'll be able to make that work. So that would be live. So sort of like a poll everywhere or something like that. But in addition, with Play Pause It, one of the nice pieces about it is you'll be able to make some of your videos for your courses and then Play Pause It on top of these videos and then ask questions like multiple choice questions, open discussion questions, and then when they answer those questions, the results of those answers will go straight to the gradebook. It's a new embedding option, and so that's a brand new tool coming online this spring that's really, I think, going to tie in well with Collaborate, and so I can just say more coming soon with that. So that's really one of the bigger pieces, but the last thing I'll leave you with is if you're having issues with attendance, don't forget when you look at your session link in your courses or in the external version, if you do the drop down, you can actually view attendance in there for any sessions that you've held. And so you're able to see how long the students have been in there down to the minute, if they had multiple connections and all of that. And there is an attendance tool that you'll sometimes run across in Collaborate, but it's not quite reliable enough for me to recommend it. But if you want to pilot it, go for it and just let me know how it goes. But that's all I've got.
All right. Thank you, Amanda. Robert wanted to add one more thing, and then we will wrap up.
All right, thanks everyone. When I was learning all of these systems, to me, one of the most helpful things was really just having a low stakes sandbox session with somebody else just to run through all the different options and how to share file and how to share a tab. So I'll put it out there for you guys. If anybody this week, before things get crazy next week, would like to have one of these low stakes sandbox sessions, just send me an email and we'll find a way to set that up.
Excellent. Thank you. We'll do one little activity that I use in my class that I'd recommend, and then we'll finish up. If you could, just throw in the chat something you learned today. What did you learn today? What's a takeaway for you? Jeopardy, report features. Good. Attendance, polls. I like very quick breakout sessions. What I would also recommend, we didn't see it today, but liberally use the whiteboard. I will put a slide of my PowerPoint and just have a blank slide and have them write on the slide. They seem to love writing on our slides. So thank you all for attending today. The prize I'm going to send you all, I will look at the list of who all was attending, and I will send you the latest version we have of the collective faculty tips and tricks that we started back in the fall. It's a 2 or 3 pager, but it's just some tips and tricks that we started developing for Collaborate. So I will send all that to you. Also, I like Shauna's idea about I'll start some kind of spreadsheet. If you want, if you're willing to be observed, either a live or recording version of one of your classes, we'll add that. You can just contact that instructor if you would like to be in on that. The nice thing about recording as well is that maybe you want someone wants to see one of your classes, you can send them the link for the recording. So great. There's lots of people willing to help with this. If you have very, very basic questions that Robert was talking about, feel free to reach out to any of us and say, how do I do this? And we will be happy to show you. We'll put you in a session with us and we can walk you through it. So again, thank you all for being here today. We really appreciate you learning more about Collaborate and learning more how to help serve our students. No t-shirts, Steve, but stay tuned. Okay, thank you all very much, folks. Have a great semester.